Summary of Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. At the beginning of the book, Dr. Elwin Ransom is taking a year off from his job as a language professor at Cambridge University and walking through the English countryside. Ransom looks around for a place to stay the night and finds a big farm. Ransom hears a noise and sneaks in through a bush even though the gate is locked. In front of him, he sees Drive Weston and Mr. Devine fighting to catch a boy. Ransom talks Weston and Devine into letting the boy go home, then he joins Weston for a drink. It turns out that the drink has drugs in it, and while being high on it, Ransom has a strange dream about meeting aliens. Ransom wakes up in a spaceship. He hears Weston and Devine say that they took him hostage to offer him as an offering to the Sorns, a strange race of people who live on the planet Malacandra. Ransom tries to worry about what will happen to him on Malacandra, but he can't help but be amazed by the bright, alive beauty of the sky the whole way. He can't bring himself to call it space now that he has seen it. After a month of flying, the ship starts to fall toward the planet Malacandra. Even though Malacandra has beautiful scenery, Ransom's fear comes back. They come ashore at a community spot next to a beautiful lake. Ransom sees three long, ghostly forms walk across the lake as they unpack their things. He thinks these are the Sorns and runs scared away from Weston and Devine. He runs away through the strange bush behind the town. Ransom sleeps for the night and then walks again in the morning. He stops at a pond to drink and then sees a big black animal that looks like a seal drinking from the same pond. Ransom is scared again until he hears what sounds like words coming from the thing. Ransom thinks this thing must be smart, so he goes to meet it. The creature tells Ransom that it is a Ross named Hai and takes him back to his town. Ransom spends weeks living with the Hrasa and learns their language and about their peaceful way of life from Hayo. Ransom changes his mind about the Hrasa as a primitive society after learning that they are great at sailing and love writing poems and songs. Ransom is most amazed by how peaceful the Hrasa, the Sorns, and a different species called the Pfiffeltrigi are with each other and how the Hrasa are with death, seeing it as the normal end of a good life. Hayo also teaches Ransom about his religion, which has spirits called Eldala who do what the head Eldal, Oyarsa, tells them to do. The most powerful gods in the world, who are called the Old One and Malaldil the Young, speak through Oyarsa. A lot of time after Ransom arrived, the Hrasa got excited when they heard that there was a shark-like animal in the lake near their town. It was called a Nakra. The Hrasa get their boats ready to hunt the Hrasa, and Ransom gets ready to ride in Hayo's boat with another Ross. Along with the rest of the Hrasa, their small group sets sail to find the Nakra, which is the only sign of evil in this otherwise perfect place. The Eldal then finds their boat and tells Ransom that Oyarsa wants to see him. However, Ransom puts off Oyarsa's order so that he and Hayo can keep hunting. Hayo and Ransom sail to the lake in the morning and see the Nakra. They kill it, but their boat is ruined in the process. Hayo and Ransom are celebrating their win on the shore when Weston shoots Hayo in the chest from the nearby forest. Their joy is short-lived. Ransom is very sad about Hayo's death, but he chooses to do what Oyarsa says and go to Oyarsa's house in Meldalorn. Another Ross tells Ransom how to get to Meldalorn, and he starts his trip. He has to get out of Malacandra's forest area, the Handramit, and climb up the mountains to reach the planet's peaks, the Harandra. After traveling for a day, Ransom quickly realizes that the Harandra has less airflow than the Harandra and starts to breathe. A Sorn named Ogre takes him in and gives him a breathing mask so he can stay alive. Ransom moves on to Meldalorn after spending the night at Ogre's tunnel and learning that the Sorns are smarter than the Ross but just as nice. He gets to this holy island by going down into a Handramit that is even more beautiful than the last one. Ransom meets a Ross on the island, and the Ross shows him stones that have pictures of Malacandra's past on them. Ransom learns from these scenes that Malacandra is Mars and that Earth used to have an Oyarsa, but that it is now evil. When Oyarsa calls out for Ransom, he shows up in front of him and sees Oyarsa as a strange light figure. The name Thulcandra comes from the fact that Earth's Oyarsa betrayed the Old One and Malaldil and cut Earth off from the rest of the stars. This is why Earth is known as the silent planet. Humanity's bent nature can be explained by this ancient fight, in which Earth's Uyarsa, now called the Bent One, gets people to only care about themselves. Ransom's meeting with Uyarsa is cut short when some Hrasa bring Weston and Devine in to be tried for killing 3 Hrasa, one of whom was Hyoi. Weston doesn't respect Uyarsa because he thinks all Malacandrians are wild animals who believe in silly pagan beliefs. He also thinks it is his job to settle Mars so that people can live. For his part, Devine only cares about the gold on Malacandra. Weston and Devine are both told by Uyarsa to leave Malacandra for good, but Ransom is allowed to stay. People like Ransom decide to go with him to bring news of Malacandra's paradise in Maladils will back to Earth. For Ransom, Weston, and Devine to get home, they have to fly dangerously close to the sun because of the way Mars and Earth are orbiting each other right now. They make it back to Earth, but Ransom is scared of Weston and won't tell his story. A previous student of Ransom's, Lewis, asks a question about a word called Uyarsa in an old Latin book. That's when Ransom tells Lewis about his experience. Ransom and Lewis come to the conclusion that the best way to prevent the rest of the world from regarding them as insane is to recount Ransom's experience in the form of a fictional novel. In this manner, readers of the book will have the opportunity to reflect on the merits of the Malacandrian way of life and may even be inspired to adopt some of those values here on Earth.
About the author. Lewis was born in Belfast, Ireland, and was interested in animals and fairy tales as a child. He became one of the most famous Christian authors of the 20th century. Lewis gave up the Christian faith that his family held dear after years of English boarding school and the death of his mother from cancer. He became interested in myths instead. He learned to write poems and worked on old epics from the Greek and Norse traditions. Later, he won a grant to go to University College, Oxford. At Oxford, Lewis became friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings. In 1931, Tolkien helped Lewis return to his Christian faith. Lewis then became a strong supporter of Christian faith. He wrote many essays, books, and radio shows explaining the logical and emotional reasons why people need to believe in Christianity. Many of these articles and radio shows were collected in Mere Christianity, Lewis's best-known nonfiction book. Lewis also wrote a number of imaginary books with themes of sin and the need for God's grace. These include the Space Trilogy, of which Out of the Silent Planet is the first book, and the 7 children's books in the Chronicles of Narnia series, which are his most famous work. Between 1949 and 1954, C.S. Lewis wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. It is now considered a classic in children's fiction, both for its fun characters and amazing experiences and for its easy-to-understand and interesting introduction to Christian beliefs and principles. Lewis was a well-known and respected scholar and Christian defender for the rest of his life. He kept ties to Oxford and a job at Magdalene College, Cambridge. He married the American author Joy David Mann in 1956 and they had 4 children together. She died in 1960. Douglas and David, Joy's 2 boys, were still being raised by Lewis when his own health got worse. He died in 1963.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.